My name's Alex Hederick, and the case study I'm presenting is herd behaviour and the housing bubble. Herd behaviour involves a group of individuals who aren't associated with one another, performing the same set of tasks to achieve the same set goal. Individuals involved in herd behaviour are likely to present little of their own research, information, ideas and thoughts. We can almost compare organisational structured herd behaviour to the behaviour shown by a group of animals. It is widely known that a group of animals will charge if one or two members of their pack decide to charge, not because each member has logic reasoning. Individuals involved in herd behaviour also present this type of following behaviour, as the name suggests, herd behaviour. Economist John Keener quotes, "A spontaneous urge to action rather than inaction." This leads us to the United States housing bubble. During the late 1990s, the United States experienced a significant increase in housing prices. In the following years to come, housing prices continued to rise until the collapse experienced in 2008, resulting in a worldwide economic crisis. The following 4 questions are my case study questions. Question 1. Some research suggests that herd behaviour increases as the size of the group increases. Why do you think this might be the case? Question 2. One researcher argues that pack behaviour comes about because it has benefits. What is the upside of such behaviour? Question 3. Schiller argues that herd behaviour can go both ways. It explains the housing bubble, but it also explains the bust. As he notes, rational individuals becoming excessively pessimistic as they see others bidding down home prices to abnormally low levels. Do you agree with Schiller? And question 4. How might organisations combat the problems resulting from herd behaviour? I gathered a number of academic-related references to answer the first question of why I think it might be the case that some research suggests that herd behaviour increases as the size of the group increases. The first academic reference I referred to was a document of a speech spoken by Chairman Ben Burnett at the annual meeting of the American Economic Association in Georgia on the 3rd of January 2010. Within the speech, Burnett referred to the graph showing to explain the housing bubble. He noted that the value of property in 1998 and 1999 rose at an annual rate of 7 to 8%. Between 2000 and 2003, a rise of 9 to 11% was experienced, and it was during 2004 and 2005 the biggest rise was experienced at 15 and 17%. In relation to these statistics of the housing bubble, it becomes evident that as more individuals purchased housing, the more inclined others were to also purchase. In other words, as the size of the group purchasing houses increased, so did herd behaviour. The herd behaviour increased as a result from the added pressure created through the increase of the size of the group purchasing houses. To support this statement, I then referred to another academic reference. Joseph Rizzi, in his article of Behavioural Bias of the Financial Crisis in the Journal of Applied Finance, Rizzi suggests that added pressure created a sense of fear, and this fear was used as motivation. Individuals didn't want to miss out on purchasing a home, nor did they want to be left behind by the market. I also referred to the academic reference of the Journal of Economic Methodology. In his article titled Bad Advice, Herding and Bubbles, Mark Thomas stated that people were encouraged by industry professionals to enter the housing market, advising them that the increase in property costs were in fact not a bubble and were expected to last. Herd behaviour increases as the size of the group increases. Along with this statement and my first case study question, I found further academic-related evidence that supports these. This additional evidence includes a peer-reviewed article. This article is titled Herd Behaviour and the Quality of Opinions and is from the Journal of Socioeconomics. The author of this article is Shindai Terigi. Terigi states that the attitude taken by individuals in an organisational structured herd is, if everyone else is doing it, then it must be successful. Within this article, Terigi also suggests that people feel more inclined to follow the herd because they believe that the majority of people involved in the herd must have information that they don't. These findings increase herd behaviour because the individual being feels as though they don't need to execute any of their own research because they believe all the other individuals involved in these herd behaviours have already done so. From these findings, we can conclude that herd behaviour increases as the size of the group that are after a particular desired outcome increases. The academic-related references I have referred to provide significant evidence that herd behaviour increases as a result from the added pressure created by the presence of more and more individuals performing the tasks they believe are necessary to achieve a common goal. The added pressure places emphasis and urgency on the drive for success, and success can only be reached by acting. Therefore, herd behaviour is increased. And a rush of activity, like a herd, is likely to be executed as individuals seek achievement. From these findings, and by linking the mentioned academic literatures together, I have been able to construct my answer to the question of why I think it's the case that herd behaviour increases as the size of the group increases. I also feel as though I have provided strong evidence to support this statement. The academic literature has also helped me to understand more regarding herd behaviour. They have also helped me understand how herd behaviour is also closely linked to the creation of economic bubbles. The second question in my case study includes the following. One researcher argues that pack behaviour comes about because it has benefits. What is the upside of such behaviour? Within the peer-reviewed article in the Journal of Mathematical Psychology, Patrick Leone states that herd behaviour is likely to encourage pack behaviour. Unlike the actions taken by the individuals in a herd who perform the same set tasks with no or little research involved, the members of a pack each perform different tasks to achieve the same common goal. Leone compares this type of behaviour to a pack of wolves. He states that because they hunt in a pack, it is likely to increase their survival chances. Comparing this to an organisational structure setting means that each member of the pack thinks for themselves. The individual thinking factor presents as a benefit of pack behaviour, as it allows for the delegation of jobs to individual members. Delegating allows for the leader of the pack, such as a manager, to perform more complex tasks, as other easier tasks can be assigned to other members of the pack. Delegating tasks between members of the pack means that more decisions can be made based on facts and research. For example, a member of the pack could be assigned to researching the desired outcome and articulate the steps other members of the pack would take in order to achieve the outcome. This approach will reduce the risk of failure, as members would base actions around facts and knowledge, instead of the herd-like approach where members present little known information and rely entirely on the actions of other individuals. Within his article, titled Pack Behaviour, Patrick Leone provides in-depth research into pack behaviour. His research presents some major benefits of pack behaviour. He explains that pack behaviour encourages further pack behaviour from external parties, and with this increase of activity brings positive externalities. These positive externalities are a direct result from the increased pack behaviour naturally bringing their own knowledge, experience and security, which helps to eliminate elements of failure. Leone refers to this increase of information as an informational cascade. Within his in-depth research, Leone describes that when a large level of pack behaviour is eventually reached, it creates security of failure for all areas of actions required to reach the desired outcome. He explains that this is because each member within the pack involved in pack behaviour have all provided adequate and in-depth research into the actions required to successfully reach the desired outcome. From the supporting academic literature that I have provided, we can conclude that organisations involved in pack behaviour are likely to succeed. This is as a result from the research and strategies that they provide towards a particular desired outcome. The third question of my case study asks if I agree with Schiller when he argues that herd behaviour can go both ways. He explains the housing bubble, but he also explains the bust. So in other words, the risks and the positive outcomes herd behaviour presents. To gather positive outcomes of herd behaviour, I again referred to econometrician Mark Thoma. Thoma refers to herd behaviour as trend chasing. He also states that trend chasing is a main cause of an economic bubble. Thoma quotes the following: "Trend chasing expectations causes a bubble to emerge." He also explains that herd behaviour places emphasis on increasing prices over time, causing bubbles to occur. Therefore, the increased pricing presents as a positive outcome of herd or trend chasing behaviour. Other positive outcomes of herd behaviour are entrepreneurship and business enthusiasm. These two positive outcomes appeared during an interview with economist Robert Schiller in 2012. He quotes, "Bubbles are part of a process that generates business enthusiasm and entrepreneurship." By linking these academic-related references together, we can see how herd behaviour generates economic bubbles. And it is when these economic bubbles are created, organisations are performing at their best, and positive outcomes accumulate. A particular example of the impact herd behaviour has is shown within the fashion industry. Everyone can clearly see how fashion trends rise and fall. The positive outcomes of fashion trends is that when a particular style is at its peak and everybody is buying it, the organisation producing that particular style will boom. Risks of herd behaviour. Considering his findings of herd behaviour, Mark Thoma carries on to state that the bubbles established by herd behaviour will eventually bust. This opposes as a risk of herd behaviour. The bust is presented when the desire for a particular product ends or fails as a result of inadequate research, resulting in a significant decrease in value. The bust of the United States housing bubble provides a clear example of this. Experts and industry professionals failed to consider the patterns of history, being a bubble is likely to burst. When investors and home buyers started to become weary of the bubble effect, they began asking questions. However, industry experts provided significant reasoning for the increase of housing prices and assured them that the increase was not a bubble and would in fact remain. However, industry professionals believed the advice they were giving and believed that the rising of home prices would continue. The bust of the bubble was experienced in 2008 when housing prices dropped by 30%. Within this particular scenario, the bust of the bubble was because of the following reasons. Home loan lenders were being too relaxed about who they lent money to, meaning they were lending home loans to people who really couldn't afford the repayments. There were low mortgage interest rates and low short-term interest rates. Robert Schiller also identifies that herd behaviours encouraging economic bubbles are inevitable because essentially businesses' decisions are based on estimations of future consumer likings. He states that we, as humans, like to think we know future consumer desires, but we don't. These herd behaviour estimations also pose as risks. From the findings of the relevant reference literature that I have provided, we can clearly see that the economic bubbles created as a result from herd behaviour are inevitable to burst. However, the positive outcomes of the behaviour are experienced during the rise and at the peak of the bubble. The impact of the positive outcomes will rely entirely on the earnings and benefits that occurred during the peak and the rise of the bubble. The impact of the positive outcomes will also depend on the period of time the rise and the peak of the bubble is experienced for. For example, if the peak and the rise of the bubbles are experienced over many years, then the benefits to the organisation or individual will be larger than if the rise and the peak is experienced over a shorter period of time, such as a month or so. It is inevitable that the economic bubble created by herd behaviour will eventually burst. This poses as the risk of herd behaviour. The benefits and profits will eventually experience a sudden drop or end completely. This leads me to my last case study question, which is, how might organisations combat the problems resulting from herd behaviour? As we have previously mentioned, individuals involved in herd behaviour usually bring no or little of their own ideas, thoughts, research and information. These attitudes towards an organisation's desired outcome brings a sense of failure. To combat these problems, it would be important for individuals to provide their own research into the desired outcome. Earlier in this presentation, I provided relevant literature research into pack behaviour and the benefits it brings with it. To further combat the problems caused by herd behaviour, organisations could involve pack behaviour. This pack behaviour would provide resistance from the problems that occur in herd behaviour because members would present research into the areas of action required to meet the desired outcome. This research would also help the organisation to avoid the economic bubble effect, as it would identify the drop in the bubble before it would occur. For the organisation, this would mean that the organisation could take their profits and benefits they have already made and leave the bubble before the organisation is at risk of sudden failure, also known as the burst of the bubble. Throughout this presentation, we can answer the allocated case study questions as well as gather in-depth meaning of the different areas associated with the questions by using relevant literature-related references and theories. We can now conclude that herd behaviour increases as the size of the group increases because of the following attributes the increased group size presents. The increased group size brings added pressure, and this added pressure encourages the individuals who are already members of the herd to perform actions towards the common desired outcome. The increased group size also brings a sense of fear. Individuals who are already members of the herd start to rush their actions towards the common desired outcome because they are afraid if they don't, then they will miss out or be left behind. Remember the quote by economist John Keynes? A spontaneous urge to action rather than inaction. The increase in group size also enhances the attitudes of the individual members of the herd, and this again results in increasing herd behaviour. This attitude is suggested by Sinjai Teriji, who quotes, "If everyone else is doing it, then it must be successful." And remember, individuals involved in herd behaviour present none of their own information and research, and rely entirely on mimicking others. Therefore, when an increase of group size is added, members already involved are likely to execute a rush of these behaviours. In other words, herd behaviour is increased. We can now see that pack behaviour brings the following benefits. Pack behaviour is when an organisation works together to achieve a common goal. This allows for individuals to think for themselves and bring their own ideas, information and research to the desired outcome. Pack behaviour allows for the delegation of jobs between members of the pack, which means that each member will be able to focus on their particular aspect of the desired outcome and execute their research and actions towards the desired outcome to the best of their ability. Delegating also allows for teamwork. Patrick Leone states that pack behaviour eliminates all the elements of failure because the members of the pack provide thoroughly researched areas of the action required to achieve the desired outcome. We can conclude that organisations involved in pack behaviour are likely to succeed at their It has become clear that the positive outcomes of herd behaviour are presented during the rise and at the peak of the economic bubble that the actions of herd behaviours creates. Robert Shiller presents positive outcomes of herd behaviour when he states that it encourages business enthusiasm and entrepreneurship. The risks of herd behaviour is experienced when the economic bubble that herd behaviour has created bursts, resulting in a sudden drop in sales and profits. To combat the problems caused by herd behaviour, we can gather that individuals involved in herd behaviour need to include their own information, ideas, research and thoughts. We have established that problems caused by herd behaviour can be eliminated by introducing the benefits of pack behaviour. We have also found that individuals involved in herd behaviour could leave the herd behaviour before the bubble effect takes place, taking their profits and earnings before they are at risk of suddenly losing it. Thank you for watching and listening to my presentation.